more of this is gone.
Okay, for reference, this is the consistency that we're going for with the clay. This is slightly on the firmer side, but you want it to be moldable into a ball, but still spreadable, like that. Okay, so our tree stump that we did the initial clay over, the paper mache clay, is getting dry. It's just a concrete form tube in there. So this side is just literally patted on. After I did the initial pat on while it was still wet, you can get a bark texture by literally just taking it and drawing lines with like a soft rounded plastic thing. And doing different ridges and lines like that. So I've done part of it that way. The other thing that we're gonna do just to try out different bark textures is we're gonna take paper towels and put it in some watered down wood glue and kind of crinkle them on here to see if we can get more of a wrinkly texture as opposed to this like carved texture here. So this is not painted. I did add some paint to the clay. And this was just the color of the paint that I put in, but a lot of the character and stuff comes from a lot of the character is going to come from the painting. All right, so I have a fan on this, helping it to dry. One of the things you can do differently than what I've done is you could use smooth paper towels as opposed to the ones that have the surface texture. That way you don't have to worry about having this texture in it. I plan to put a textured paint on it, so I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal. And I'm about to go over this, so I dipped the paper towels in watered down wood glue, but I'm about to go over it with just wood glue to like really try to help it set and lock in place. So sometimes we make things that are meant to be touched and some things that are meant not to be touched. So in trying this paper towel method, it's mostly dry at this point, and I feel like it's still soft. So I am going to do a brush coat of like just the paper mache ingredients. So flour and glue is typical paper mache stuff. So we're gonna give this a hard coat with that to see if it makes it durable enough to be touched. If not, I would reserve this method for things that do not require that. Okay, so this is dry now, and actually I feel like this doing the paste with the wood glue and the flour really did like toughen it up. And I'm interested to see like what the texture looks like once we've painted over it. So right now this is just a sample log. So I have 3 different textures. I have just the straight like patted on. I have the slightly carved version that we did with a plastic spoon, and then I have the paper towel crinkle version here. So we're gonna paint over this whole thing. I'm gonna do the base coat first, and then we'll go back in and add some other paint colors. So I'm going to start here with a combination of burnt umber and black, just to get our base coat going. A good thing to do here is to look up inspo pictures of like trees. I know that sounds so dumb, but it's like trees are brown, but there are lots of different shades of brown, and oftentimes they're actually a lot less warm than we think they're going to be. Oftentimes the bark is a very like taupey, ashy kind of brown. We're doing this darker color, which will be basically in the crevices of the tree, because we'll come back on with a top coat. So that's why we're gonna go with the black and burnt umber to give us a cool dark brown. I forgot to say too that if you have something that you're trying to match, or even like you just want a really realistic color, you can use wall paint. So when we use this in our room, I actually have one of those like paint fans, and I was trying to match a specific tree that we already had. So I just pulled out the fan deck and matched the closest shade and took it and had a quart mixed of it, and it worked perfectly. So you can also do that, and that's a really easy way to do it if you don't feel confident mixing your own colors. You could literally just take your fan deck out into your yard and find a tree and find the closest like brown tones and go have those mixed up so that you can do the different shades that you want. So I just wanted to take like a pause to show you, as I'm doing paint like this, I don't mix the paint together. I will often have two piles like this, and I kind of get a combination on my brush, and I sort of stipple it out over here. So it sort of mixes it together, and I don't know if it's gonna come through on the camera, but then like as I'm painting, I'm getting some variation and streaking, and because bark grows in a vertical fashion, you could leave this streaking on here, and it's gonna go ahead and start adding to the dimension of your log. Okay, so it is dry. This side is looking very cool texture-wise, where we had those paper towels. So we're gonna come in and now do our dry brushing on top. So just for reference, these are the colors I'm using: burnt umber, iced coffee, territorial beige, dark chocolate, and peppercorn. So I basically wanted to have like a warm cinnamony brown. Our base color was burnt umber with black, so I've got that to help mix. And then I have kind of a neutral tan color, a warm tan color, and then a gray. Okay, so we're gonna come in with our handy dandy chip brush. They do make these in multiple sizes. This is a 1 inch. They have a 2 inch and a 3 inch, probably larger as well. I tend to use this and the 2 inch the most, but for this purpose you could use whatever. So I have my little color palette here, and remember, when we're going in with dry brushing, you're basically gonna get a very small amount of paint on here and stipple it off to disperse the pigment on the bristles, and also so you're not having harsh strokes on the thing. So I will typically grab 2 colors at a time, and I use the same brush as I'm mixing between colors, so that I'm getting tons of like color variation and blending going on. So it's always scary to like jump in and start and just picking a thing to start with. So for the sake of being slightly nervous on the colors, we're just gonna go in with this like cinnamony brown and this tan, and then maybe a smidge of the gray. So as I'm doing it, it's kind of mixing around, and you can see right now I've got the brush and it looks like this. But once I stipple it off, this is what my palette's gonna start looking like, and I no longer have like globs of paint on there. So it is more evenly distributed. going in with a light touch, we're gonna start doing vertical brush strokes on here. And I'm starting with the side that we just patted, so it should be pretty easy to get going on here. So there's already a little bit of color variation, which I don't know if it's coming through on the camera, but we're gonna start doing this and marrying it all together. So as I'm doing this, you can see this, I want a little bit warmer brown. Like feel like I have too much gray, so I'm gonna get a little bit more of that warm brown tone and come back through here. So you'll kind of see as you're going on with your colors, you know, what do you need to adjust? What do you want it to look like? I'm gonna speed up this part so you can see all the different things. Okay, so I think this is looking really good, but I wanted to add a little bit more paint. So I looked up some inspo pics online to kind of just see what I was thinking and where I wanted to go from here. So I'm kind of going in with some warmer tones on here, mainly focusing on a warm tan and kind of a cooler tan. So we're gonna see where we go from there. So this is the first texture side. Texture numero 2. And the third texture. This is in the sunlight.